Have you ever wondered if saying I do again after 70 could be the biggest blessing or the hardest challenge of your life? Many seniors feel the pull of companionship, but deep down, a quiet instinct whispers caution. What if that instinct is wiser than you think? Love later in life can be tender, comforting, and even healing in ways words can't fully capture. Yet beneath the beauty, there are challenges no one really talks about. Could overlooking them lead to regret you never expected? Think about it. By now, you've lived decades of experiences. You've built habits, created routines, raised children, or perhaps said goodbye to someone you cherished deeply. Welcoming someone new into your world now doesn't just change your last name or mailing address. It reshapes far more than that. It affects how your money flows, stirs the dynamics of your family, and demands a kind of clarity that only comes with hard, honest reflection. In this video, we'll walk through 5 essential truths every person over 70 should know before considering remarriage. These aren't here to frighten you. They're here to guide, protect, and give you peace of mind. Because love at this stage isn't about building a fresh foundation, it's about blending together lives that are already established. And that's why the risks, if ignored, can feel heavier, deeper, and more permanent than you ever imagined. Stay with me until the very end, because the final truth may be the one most people overlook. Yet it could save you from years of quiet regret. Whether you're already in a relationship, thinking about saying yes, or simply curious about what remarriage truly means in later life, this video was made for you. Let's begin. Number 1. The legal and financial consequences. This is something very few people talk about, because most believe that love is all you need. But when you are over 70 and thinking about remarriage, what you don't know about legal and financial matters can quietly undo the life you've worked so hard to build. Remarrying has the power to affect everything, from your Social Security benefits to your will, your pension, and even the tax bracket you fall into. While love may feel like the most important factor, ignoring these realities can bring complications that ripple far beyond yourself. They can touch the people who rely on you, who trust you, and who expect to inherit from you one day. Many seniors are shocked to discover, for example, that remarrying after the age of 60 may directly affect widow or widower Social Security benefits. If you're receiving spousal benefits from a deceased partner, that income can be reduced or even cut off completely once you enter into a new legal marriage. Pensions from a previous spouse, especially those connected to government or military service, or ICE, may also be impacted in ways you never expected. And if you've carefully created a will or trust with your children in mind, remarriage can legally override those intentions unless new documents are properly drafted and signed. Without realizing it, the assets you wanted to pass on may be redirected, leaving behind confusion and conflict. I once knew a man named Carl, age 76, who had been widowed for almost 10 years. He fell in love again, met a wonderful woman, and they married quietly without giving much thought to paperwork or planning. Years later, after Carl passed away, his children were devastated to learn that his pension benefits had automatically shifted to his new wife. The result was shock, resentment, and an irreversible financial loss that no one had foreseen. Carl hadn't done anything wrong. He simply didn't realize the rules had changed. Even your taxes can shift in ways that catch you off guard. For some people, marriage may lower taxes, but for others, especially seniors with retirement income, property holdings, or investment accounts, remarriage can actually push you into a higher tax bracket. You may suddenly lose access to deductions or benefits that were available when you filed as single or widowed. These shifts don't arrive with loud warnings or dramatic announcements. They happen quietly, hidden in paperwork, buried in policies, and written into documents you might not think to review until it's far too late. Isn't it unsettling how something as small as a box checked on a form could alter your financial security? At this stage of life, protecting your peace of mind also means protecting your paperwork. You've worked too long and too hard to let your final wishes be undone by a marriage certificate you didn't fully understand. Love is still possible. Commitment is still beautiful. But allowing the emotional side of marriage to blind you to the practical realities can create consequences that cannot easily be reversed. Number 2, the emotional needs that quietly change with age. When we think about remarriage, it's easy to picture a second chance at love, the laughter, the companionship, the joy of being needed again. Yet here's the truth. Few people are willing to say out loud. The emotional needs that once shaped your first marriage may no longer be the same ones that truly serve you now. At 70 or 75, the kind of relationship you long for may be very different from what you once needed at 35 or 40. Back then, marriage was often about building a life together from the ground up, creating a home, raising children, planning for the future. Now, at this stage, it's more about preserving the life you've already built, protecting it with care, balance, and clarity. For many seniors, the deepest longing isn't necessarily for romance in the traditional sense. Instead, it's for respect, for emotional companionship without the heavy burden of day-to-day dependency. But when those true needs aren't clearly named, they can get lost under a tide of feelings, the ache of loneliness, waves of nostalgia, or even guilt for wanting connection again. Isn't it easy to mistake a rush of emotion for lasting fulfillment? Jumping into remarriage without first acknowledging your emotional truth can open the door to confusion, disappointment, or even the quiet erosion of your independence. I once knew a woman named Helen, 74, who remarried soon after losing her husband of 45 years. Her new partner was kind, generous, and deeply devoted. But in time, she discovered that what she really wanted wasn't another man to take care of her. What she craved was a partner who respected her space, supported her choices, and understood that she wasn't trying to start her life over from the beginning. Helen was searching for a way to move forward. Eventually, with patience and honest conversations, they renegotiated the terms of their relationship. They no longer saw themselves as husband and wife bound by traditional molds, but as two older adults choosing to walk beside each other without needing to define their worth through each other. Remarriage at this stage of life should begin with one essential question: what do I truly need emotionally right now? Maybe it's someone to share meals with, or someone whose laughter brightens your days. Whatever the answer, naming it clearly can make all the difference between joy and regret. Maybe what you need most is a travel companion, or perhaps simply someone who listens without rushing in to fix everything. These are very real needs, but they're not the same as the emotional dependencies younger couples often weave into marriage. And unless you identify them early on, you might find yourself stepping into a version of partnership that feels heavier with obligation than it does with joy. There's another truth worth naming. Your emotional energy at this stage of life is finite. You may no longer have the patience or bandwidth for constant caretaking, endless emotional drama, or exhausting conflict resolution. And that doesn't make you selfish, it makes you wise. You've lived long enough to know what you can and cannot live with. You understand the high cost of silence, the weight of resentment, and the imbalance that comes when emotional needs go unmet. This time around, if you do choose to remarry, it should come from a place of self-awareness rather than longing. Longing can be powerful in the moment, but it fades with time. Clarity, on the other hand, endures. So before you say yes, pause and ask yourself honestly, do I want a partner or do I want peace? Sometimes, with the right person, you can have both. But sometimes, chasing one can quietly take away the other. And at this age, peace is no longer just a luxury. It is a necessity. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, let me know by commenting the number 2 below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. Your support allows us to keep creating meaningful content designed to inform, guide, and inspire you. Now, let's move on to number 3. Blended families and the hidden friction they often bring. When two people in their 70s decide to marry, it may feel like a simple choice between two hearts. But in reality, there are usually many more people involved, and not all of them are eager to celebrate. Adult children, grandchildren, and extended relatives from both sides can quietly introduce layers of emotional complexity, financial suspicion, or even resentment. If you're not prepared for that friction, what begins as a hopeful union can quickly turn into a source of unexpected strain. Blended families themselves aren't new, but what makes them different at this stage of life is the decades of personal history, grief, and expectation each person carries. Your children may still be processing the absence or loss of their other parent. They may wonder about your new partner's intentions or worry about what this change means for their inheritance, their role in your life, and even the family traditions they've held close for years. Even if no one says it directly, these tensions often emerge in subtle ways: hesitation, cool politeness, passive resistance, or a growing distance that feels difficult to explain. Have you ever noticed how silence can sometimes speak louder than words? That's often the case when unspoken fears and emotions remain unresolved. I once knew a man named Gerald, age 78, who remarried after living many years as a widower. His daughter, now in her 40s, was always polite and kind to his new wife. But Gerald noticed a subtle shift over time: fewer phone calls, shorter visits, and a quiet distance he couldn't understand. Eventually, she admitted that she felt replaced. It wasn't that his new wife had done anything wrong. It was that Gerald hadn't made enough space for his daughter's emotions during the process. That honest conversation changed everything. Not because it magically solved every issue, but because it brought unspoken fears into the light, where they could finally be addressed. Sometimes the tension in blended families isn't just emotional, it's financial. When wills are rewritten, assets redirected, or inheritances shifted, it can spark painful misunderstandings, fracture trust, and even create long-term estrangement between parents and children. This doesn't mean you owe your family control over every decision, but it does mean you owe them honesty and the opportunity to ask questions before those changes become final. These talks are uncomfortable, yes, but pretending the discomfort isn't there doesn't prevent hurt. It only delays it, often making the eventual pain even sharper. Isn't it better to face unease now than regret later? Before you remarry, take the time to speak openly with your children and close family members. Share your reasons, your hopes, and the boundaries that matter to you. Reassure them where you can, and allow space for their discomfort where you cannot. You don't need their permission for this chapter of your life, but you will need their presence, their connection, and their love far longer than you'll ever need their approval for one decision. In the end, the success of your marriage won't rest solely on the two of you. It will also depend on how well you both learn to navigate the delicate dance of honoring the past while carefully building something new together. And that balance isn't only about love, it's about emotional leadership. At this stage of life, you already know that the hardest conversations are often the very ones that lead to the deepest peace. Number 4, the caregiving role no one ever truly plans for. In your 70s or 80s, love can feel like a comforting return. It's the joy of having someone to talk with over breakfast, someone to hold hands with during a walk, someone to share the quiet evenings with after the noise and busyness of life have faded. But what many seniors don't fully consider is how quickly that companionship can shift into caretaking, and how unprepared most people are for what that really demands. When you remarry at this age, you aren't just gaining a partner. You may also be inheriting their future health needs while placing your own in someone else's hands. At first, it often seems simple: an occasional doctor's appointment, a prescription to be picked up. But before long, one of you may be filling pill boxes, assisting with bathing, preparing every meal, or juggling medical appointments. Have you ever thought about how quickly love's gentle routines can become responsibilities that test both your body and your spirit? Even when done out of deep love, caregiving takes a toll. It requires physical energy, emotional patience, and mental strength, resources that can feel scarce in later years. I once knew a woman named Gloria, age 80, who remarried a man she deeply adored. He was witty, sharp, and strong, yet within just 2 years, his health declined rapidly. Gloria suddenly found herself lifting him in and out of chairs, waking at night to help him to the bathroom, and making medical decisions she had never imagined she'd face again at that age. She never regretted loving him, but she often admitted, "I wish we had talked more about what might come." And that is the part most people overlook. When you marry later in life, you're not stepping into a season of building the future. You are managing what remains of it. That reality does not make love any less meaningful. If anything, it makes it even more sacred, but it also means you need to ask the difficult questions, the ones so many avoid, before you take that step. What happens if one of us becomes seriously ill? Who will manage the finances if one of us starts to decline? Are we truly prepared, emotionally and practically, to step into the role of caregiver again? And not out of obligation, but from a place of genuine readiness? Caregiving isn't simply a checklist of tasks to be completed. It transforms the relationship. It introduces new layers of dependency. It tests patience in ways you may not anticipate. For many seniors, it also reopens old wounds, memories of caring for a spouse who has passed, or fears of one day becoming a burden themselves. When these questions aren't discussed honestly from the start, emotions can build quietly beneath the surface. What began as love may slowly turn into resentment or an exhausting fatigue that neither person ever expected. That is why, before you choose to remarry, you must speak openly, not only about who you are today, but about who you are becoming. These are conversations about the future, not just the present. Talk candidly about long-term care plans. Discuss the possibilities of mobility changes, memory issues, driving limitations, and even where you will live. Will you remain in your current home? Will you move closer to adult children? Will you bring in outside help when the time comes, or try to handle it all on your own? There may not be perfect answers, but pretending the questions don't exist won't protect you from their consequences. Isn't it wiser to face uncertainty with preparation rather than with denial? If you're still watching and find these insights valuable, please let me know by commenting the number 4 below. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe and turn on the bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Your support allows us to continue creating content that informs, empowers, and inspires. Now, let's move forward to number 5. The importance of healing before you begin again. Loneliness after 70 can feel louder than it ever did before. The house grows quieter, the days seem longer, and the absence of someone to share life with becomes more noticeable with each passing season. And in that quiet space, it's only natural to seek connection, to long for companionship, affection, or even simply the comfort of another voice in the room. But if you haven't fully healed from your past, whether that means grieving a spouse, recovering from a painful divorce, or releasing years of old resentment, then remarriage can quietly become less about love and more about avoiding the pain you never resolved. Many seniors step into a new marriage, hoping it will fill an emotional void. And while a new partner may bring joy, comfort, and laughter, they cannot carry the heavy weight of your unprocessed grief. When we remarry from a place of emotional imbalance, we often place silent expectations on the other person, expecting them to be more patient, more available, or even more like the one we lost. But can anyone truly live up to a ghost from the past? When those silent expectations aren't met, resentment begins to build. Not because the new partner has done anything wrong, but because the farewell to the life we once lived was never fully spoken. I remember a man named Eugene, 83, who married a widow just 2 years after losing his wife of 50 years. On the surface, he said all the right things. He wanted to move forward. He believed in second chances. But deep down, he later admitted that every night before bed, he still talked to his late wife. He had kept her clothes neatly hanging in the closet. Around his neck, he wore her wedding ring on a chain. His new wife never demanded that he let go, but she always felt the presence of someone else between them, as if she were sharing a home with a memory that never left. And over time, that invisible distance slowly eroded their bond, leaving both of them carrying a quiet sorrow they never intended. Healing does not mean forgetting, and it does not mean shutting the door on your past. True healing is about making peace with what has already been lived, so that when you say yes again, It isn't simply a reaction to what was lost, but a genuine response to what you are truly ready to receive. Healing asks you to pause and face the hard questions. Have I fully grieved? Am I marrying to avoid something or to build something new? Would I still want this person beside me if I already felt whole? One of the most generous gifts you can offer a future partner is a version of yourself that isn't expecting to be rescued, repaired, or filled up. Because the kind of love that endures in your 70s or 80s is not the kind that completes you. It's the kind that honors who you already are and gently joins you on that path. Isn't that the kind of love we all hope for as the years grow quieter? Before you remarry, give yourself the time to sit with your own story. Talk with a counselor or a trusted friend who will listen without judgment. Write letters to the people you've lost, even if you never send them, as a way to honor their place in your heart. And if sadness still lingers at times, let it. Healing isn't about erasing grief. It's about creating room for love to stand beside it without competition. The most beautiful relationships in later life are not the ones that try to rewrite the past. They are the ones that say, I see your history, I honor your journey, and I'm not here to replace anyone, but to walk with you for as long as life allows. That kind of love doesn't rush, and it never asks you to pretend you aren't still healing. It simply meets you exactly where you are and chooses to stay. As we come to a close, I invite you to take a quiet moment to reflect on what remarriage truly means, not just in theory, but in the reality of your life, your heart, and your future. You've now heard 5 important truths, not shared to scare you away from love, but to prepare you for it. Because at this stage of life, love is no longer about rushing headlong into a feeling. It's about stepping with intention and clarity. Remarriage in your 70s or 80s is about understanding the life you are inviting someone into. It's about protecting the foundation you've built, honoring the journey you've already traveled, and choosing carefully what you want to carry forward. Whether it's sorting through financial changes, recognizing how your emotional needs have shifted, facing the realities of blended families, preparing for the possibility of caregiving, or ensuring you have fully healed before opening your heart again. Each of these truths offers something priceless: clarity. And clarity is what allows love to grow in a space that isn't clouded by confusion or weighed down by regret. You deserve companionship that aligns with your life as it is today, not as it once was. You deserve peace in your home, strength in your decisions, and joy in your later years that doesn't depend on anyone else to give it stability. Remarriage can absolutely be a part of that joy, but only if you step into it with both eyes open and both feet firmly grounded in self-respect. So before you say yes to someone else, learn to say yes to yourself first. Say yes to your own understanding, your own timing, and your own boundaries. Because when you are rooted in your truth, the love you attract will not only be better, it will be the kind of love that lasts. Not louder, not flashier, but better. The kind of love that doesn't push you to hurry, doesn't drain your spirit, and never asks you to be anyone other than exactly who you are. If this video gave you something meaningful to think about, whether it was a gentle reminder, a challenge to consider, or simply a quiet reassurance, carry it with you. Let it settle in your heart. Allow these truths to guide the next conversation you have, to shape the next important decision you face, or to inspire the next story you share with someone who may need to hear it. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. We would truly love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share one thing you've learned here and how you plan to use it in your own life. Your reflections matter more than you realize. Every comment encourages us, motivates us, and reminds us why creating this kind of content is so important. So don't hold back. Your voice is part of this community. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share it with others. Your support helps us continue producing content designed to inform, inspire, and guide. Thank you once again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Wishing you good health, happiness, and peace, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel.